All right, hello Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. Here again with my buddy Jimmy Messick. Got Maurice on Zoom. Good to see you again, Maurice.
Good to be seen.
Got a lot to talk about today. We're going to try to get through this past game excitement, if you will, as quick as we can, because this week's game is the one that everybody's talking about. So, Jimmy, I'm going to start with you this time, actually, and your kind of take on the football game this past Saturday, Texas A&M. As we've said, it's a win, man.
Right.
It is a win, SEC.
Yeah. So let me just start out by saying this. I think we all three were a little bit off on our predictions from last
Very,
week.
very much so.
I thought I said it was going to be a close game.
Yeah, exactly. We all predicted a close game down to the last play of the game, didn't we? Now, I was thinking about what would I say in this segment, and for me, there's one word that comes to mind: disappointed or disappointed. Disappointed in the overall performances. Disappointed in all the turnovers. Disappointed in our All-American kicker, quote unquote All-American kicker, missing 2 kicks. The last one was no excuse. Disappointed in the SEC referees. Man, they have been so inconsistent. I mean, can we get some consistency out of them, please, at some point this year?
Agreed.
I mean, it's crazy how bad and inconsistent these guys can be.
And unfortunately, Maurice, before you jump in, fortunately, we're saying this after a win.
Right.
It'd sound way worse if we were talking about this after a loss. But at the end of the day, I think you had sent a couple of clips and pictures, and I'd seen others. You can't have the best pass rush in the country, providing the most hurries, etc., and only have 2 holding calls against you all year.
You don't want one call this past Saturday.
Doesn't make sense. Maurice, jump in, chime in, tell us what you think.
Well, I'm worried. I'm worried about Jimmy. He seems a little distraught, and if I was there, I would make sure that somebody gave you a hug. It wouldn't be me.
I do need a hug today, by the way, but go ahead.
So get Toygar or somebody in there to give you a little bro love. No, I'm still dismayed, disappointed. I'm D something with the overall performance. A high school sophomore quarterback knows in camp and practice you don't try to run the ball with one hand, especially when you're scrambling. At some point, I don't know. I don't guess these wide receivers are going to get the message that you don't loaf or go halfway on a play. So yeah, and I could tell I was listening to Saban's comments after the game, and he was not pleased being politically correct. And as far as not calling anybody out specifically, and we all have texted about it, to the fact that not forgiving Milroe because he pretty much he couldn't. The moment was too big for him. I thought just based on his play, but it wasn't all him. It was plenty to go around. The defense, I give credit to. I'll stop right there.
Yeah, Maurice, we talked about it a couple times through text, and we talked about it after the game. And I said during the game, I said, you can't put it all on Milroe. Yeah, he's got to protect the ball better. We all know that. That's a given. No point in continuing that conversation. With respect to the passing, as far as his numbers, the total yards was terrible. His completion percentage wasn't too bad. The issue then becomes, as we've said, what are the receivers doing? What kind of routes are we running? What type of protection do we have? Because those were all things that Saban pointed out as well. And we had talked about it. I think you had sent a video clip of a particular receiver running to the safety. And the safety holding him. Don't get me wrong, but here from a former offensive coordinator perspective, and even at the high school level, so I know it's there. We talked about the 2-way out. It's a route and it's a 2-way out, and you based on what that guy does, you break your route accordingly. And in that particular piece that we looked at, it was just like our receiver just ran up to the guy and was able to come in contact with him with no intention of breaking his route and getting open. He just ran the route and stayed covered up and yes, was held. But so my question, that's not Milroe's fault. You know, Milroe, maybe that was one of the times where he had to scramble and he fumbled or whatever. We don't know that. But my point is, we do have to do a better job, in my opinion, at the receiver position of getting open. And Maurice, you know, yes, you said that a couple of times throughout the year that our receivers appear to be lazy, or they just don't know. That would concern me at this level and at this, even at this stage of the year. But there's just some things with respect to Jalen Milroe in that game this past weekend, as far as the passing game is concerned, that just didn't make sense. You know, we throw the touchdown to Latu on a fairly quick pass, just sliding up the seam. We throw the touchdown to Jermaine Burton on a slant that we were all saying, where's the slant? Where's the slant? They run the slant. We score a touchdown on it, 35 yards. The next touchdown pass was to Brooks, a drag across the middle, which was a very well thrown ball, never broke stride. So where were those passes, especially when late in the game, they were putting 8 in the box and telling us to pass? As a Division I program, #1 team in the country, I don't care if it's your backup quarterback. If they're putting 8 in the box and you can't complete a quick pass, 5-yard slant, 5-yard dig, 5-yard out, curl, hitch, whatever, that's concerning.
You know, there's been a guy on the show that's been pretty critical of our offensive coordinator. I'm not going to call any names out. I'm not sure if he's on location somewhere in Florida or actually sitting in the studio, but there's been a guy that's been very.
I think it's the guy in the blue shirt, actually.
This is gray. This is a gray. But yeah. So again, I was one of those guys screaming, "Where are the slants? Where are the slants? Where are the slants?" We finally throw it, and was that the only time we did it? So again, most of the blame goes to the offensive coordinator. I still don't think he's the guy that we need there. And I still think he has brain cramps or whatever you want to call it, lapses for whatever reason. And so I was, again, extremely disappointed in him. Again, I'm not throwing it all on Milroe. Yeah, there's some things that he did as far as mistakes made, but yeah, so like you said, where was that scheme? Where was those quick ins and outs and digs and whatever? I mean, we didn't see none of that. It was just like, just run down the field. It's almost like backyard football. All right, you go along and you go along, and this guy goes this long, and when somebody's open, I was told. I mean, it's like, what? I don't know. It was crazy.
Maurice,
I'm still worried about Jimmy. But
I don't disagree. I'm a little worried about him too. Maurice, do you agree though that there is some responsibility that's got to go to Bill O'Brien?
I think there's responsibility that goes to O'Brien and Nick Saban. Saban is a head coach, and yes, he spends most of his time with the defense, but he's the head coach. So if something's not going right, he has that authority and that right on the headphone to say, this is what I want, start calling this. I agree with Jimmy. Put it this way. If you had Tua or AJ or Greg, and they were doing a press coverage, putting 8 in the box, and you had a receiver like Julio or Ridley or any of them, you would be toast. And we didn't come close to toasting anybody on a regular. You do that, then you pay. You're doing that to say, I'm not worried that you're going to throw. I'm going to make sure I'm going to stop the run. But
yes, they didn't, and they didn't, fortunately for us. But let me also say, I said it during the game, Maurice. If you remember the long pass that Texas A&M had that should have been a touchdown, ended up being a really good catch by their receiver. Kid was wide open, and well, you know why he was wide open? Because he had a double move, safety bid on it, and he was free. I have not seen us run a double move, and we keep talking about that's because teams are running 2 high safeties often against us to keep us from going up top. Okay, but where are our double moves to make those safeties bite, especially as much as we've thrown it underneath over the past 6 games?
Right.
You know, so where are those double moves?
Well, you know, I'll go back to what you said, Sean. The receiver and the quarterback should be on the same page as far as reading whatever the DB, in this case, the safety, is doing. So when you see that, you can do your double move knowing that you're going to go deep because either he stepped up or he's drifting on the other side of the field. So it's there. I don't think we're reading it. I don't
Yeah, I
think
don't know.
so.
And that's nothing against Milrow. We haven't run a lot of those double moves with Bryce Young. So
I go back to the wide receivers.
yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done. Thank God we have a really good defense. There's a lot of work to be done offensively. Yes, we're running the football really well. Maybe we'll go to a break in just a minute. I'm going to make a comment with respect to the offensive line. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I picked it up, during the game. But several things, again, maybe it is that leads to the Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator. I don't exactly know how their structure is with respect to those decisions, but there's some things that if we don't clean up this weekend could get ugly in a hurry.
Well, talking about those receivers, it goes back to what I was talking about the refs. I mean, the consistency. It's just not there. Again, every time we seem like we turn the corner, we take a couple steps back. And so you're right. I think I didn't think that was going to be an issue this year. I knew we were still fairly young as far as experience goes, but man, we've got so much talent at that position. So yeah, but right now that to me is the biggest concern I have is at the wide receiver.
Still waiting to see Harold.
Yeah, and I thought he was going to be available this week, but I'm talking about the offensive line. Maybe they didn't play as well this week as they did against Arkansas, but I still thought they did well. I mean,
well, we'll take a break in just a second. I want to talk about the offensive line for just a minute because there's a couple of things that I picked up on. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing, but Maurice, we're going to take a break here in just a second, so we'll come back and talk about that a little bit. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Roll Tide.
I know Beam. I used to watch cartoons and sports on their TV, and now I use their internet.
Take it from Javion Cohen, all SEC team offensive lineman.
Beam, it's the choice of champions.
Like Javion said, it is the internet choice of champions. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
What is community? Is it a neighborhood? The businesses and homes inside it? Maybe community isn't just a place. Maybe it's a state of mind that when we care together, cheer together, we're closer to what really counts. At Beam, we're finding new ways to bring us all closer. And you'll find us right out there with you, because community is always on our mind. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. We were talking right there before the break just about the offensive line, which I do believe they're improving. Very much so, they've improved. It's obvious in the yardage per on the ground that we're getting. But one of the things that I mentioned, and I don't know if you guys saw it. So Javion Cohen got to start at left guard, okay, and Ekiyor's the right guard, Latham's right tackle, Steen's left tackle, and I believe Seth McLaughlin, I think's his name. He got the center, start at center, which I think he does a good job. But what I noticed was the protection is so much better. And it's not because he's a central kid and I'm a central guy. But if you go back and watch the game, maybe you pay attention to this, our protection was way better when Cohen was at left guard. Now, they say Booker is a mauler. They say he's very physical. So maybe from a running perspective, he does a better job. I'm not sure. But when Booker went in the game, we started having some protection issues. And
also because they were stacking the box finally.
This was earlier. This was because he went in the game second quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Cohen gets back in. But my point is, I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if Cohen, man, I'm telling you, I'm watching the front line specifically, and I don't know. It seems like they have a little bit more chemistry when he's in there. Now, maybe it's because he's been there. He played all last year there. I don't know what that is, but Maurice, did you notice anything like that with the personnel changes on the offensive group?
I always feel like when Cohen's in, there seems to a little bit more cohesiveness.
Yeah.
and I don't mean to be biased just because he's, from Phoenix City. I just think that it just seems to be a better fit, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Now,
me too.
I've liked Seth since last year. I believe it was an SEC championship game. He's got a little chip on his shoulder, and he seems to play with it. I didn't have a problem with the offensive line altogether. I thought, going back to Milrow, I thought he caused a lot of those problems himself. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket. He bailed on it real quick with his feet and his eyes. So I thought he brought some of that on himself. So I don't put that on the offensive line. Not to mention, Gibbs had another phenomenal night of running the ball. So
Yeah.
it's not the line's problem.
And
Yeah.
let me use the word of the day again, consistency. So when Javion's in there, it seems like we're a little more consistent.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, maybe they'll get it figured out. Again, they're going to have to get it figured out. Maybe they're doing that this week. But let's talk a little bit about the defense. I thought the defense, from the very first possession, I thought the defense was playing lights out. I really had no fear throughout the night. Yes, I was a little concerned what we were doing offensively. I still didn't think they could score. I even said in the game, I think I made the statement that, 17 points may be all they score. And of course, 17 points, some of that was from us turning the ball over to them. There'll be people that say they forced those turnovers. Okay, we saw some of it. Some of that was our fault. But I do believe that the fumble by Chase McClellan was a very good play by the defensive guy. Put his helmet on the ball, 280 pounds, hit him from behind. Man, it was a really good play by him. But I felt confident that the defense could stop them, when pretty much regularly, and they did. Yes, they made some plays. They have Division I talent as well. A couple of the plays they made were just fantastic catches. We talked about the one catch. The jump ball on the sideline, that was just a good play.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, the defense obviously won the game for us, I think. But, man, I was, again, disappointed in how they played overall.
What?
That offense that Texas A&M has is going to be one of the worst we faced this year. And they were able to score pretty easily both times we gave them the ball, one time on the 50-yard line, the next time on whatever it was,
25.
20. To me, it wasn't that long ago. I remember our defenses, man, they bow their freaking necks and not allow an easy score after a turnover deep in our territory. There was two back-to-back that A&M just made it look easy scoring on us.
Well,
so I was a little disappointed from that standpoint. Yeah, obviously they were getting after that quarterback, even though we didn't have that many sacks. I know we had a record number of hurries.
He was under duress 55% of the time.
But he also made a bunch of plays.
For sure.
He also had.
But daggum, Jimmy, he can't. We're not perfect. These guys are players too. They're going to get plays. I have never seen. I'm going to go completely opposite with you on this one. Sean, I've never seen an effort by the front 3 or 4 that got push. Will Anderson didn't have, but I was watching him. He was giving effort like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And kudos to him and Dallas Turner. They were fighting. They were giving.
Braswell too. Listen,
the old cheetah package. How good is that?
Yeah, Braswell too.
Yeah,
I get it, guys. But how did they score 20? What they score 24 points or whatever it was, and had a chance.
If you looked, they made some big plays at opportune times. We'd have them 3rd and 7 or 8, and they'd make a play. We put pressure. We stop them 2nd and 10. They pick up a few yards. 3rd and 8, they make a play. Listen, those are the things that happen. I just knew that I felt like our defense was good enough and played well enough, even under the circumstances of the turnovers, that we would win the football game. Now, we did win the football game, and it was nail-biting right there at the end. I think some of that's referee's fault. The pass interference call late in the game that would have sealed the game without them getting the last play was absolutely horrible against Brian Branch. Absolutely horrible. He's just running down the field with him like this. absolutely terrible. And it came from the other side of the field with the back judge standing right there at
In the
it.
middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, so consistency with officials. I mean, it's been that way, and we're going to continue to see stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we get a win against a team that played with a lot of passion. We gave them a lot of chances and kept them in the game, most certainly. But we did it. We won the football game. We gave our reigning Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, Bryce Young, a chance to get another week's rest. And it sets us up for a big, big showdown this coming weekend. And so, I think it's ideal. You get a 24-20 win. I don't care about dropping a couple of spots in the polls. That's irrelevant. You made a good point. It's funny how the coaches don't see that we moved to number 3. I think they left us at number 1, if I'm not mistaken. Who knows more, coaches or the media? But that's another conversation in itself.
Besides winning the game, the only other good thing that could have come from this past weekend is that we typically don't see back-to-back games under Saban where we
Played poorly. Yeah.
And look like poo-poo. So,
Well, this is the second time where Saban has said after a game where we need to improve, and that's just not the players. He's referring to the coaches. So your comments about Bill O'Brien or whomever else may be legit as far as I think maybe the tires are wearing thin on his patience.
What did you? If you watched if you were watching the game, which I know you did, on the sideline a couple of times, Saban's walking down the sideline, talking in his headphones, saying, "Run the football." I mean, it's very clear. Of course, he had a few other choice words, adjectives in there, but he was like, "Run the football," so maybe you're right, Maurice. Maybe there's going to be some conversation about some of the things that we know we can do well or should be able to do well.
or things we can improve on.
Yeah, or things we can improve on. So we're going to take another quick break. We're going to kind of devote this whole next segment to the Tennessee game. It's going to be a big one. I think it's going to be a really good one. So, Tide fans, hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam is delivering gig speed internet to 100% of our network. But should you get a gig? Well, if you want to download an album in a blink, video conference in 4K, make virtual reality more real, power all of your home smart devices at the same time, and still have bandwidth to stream everything without buffering, then yeah, you gotta get a gig. So call, click, or visit and get it. Because when you gotta get a gig, you gotta go with Beam. Bringing East Alabama more.
I know Beam. I used to watch cartoons and sports on their TV, and now I use their internet.
Take it from Javion Cohen, all SEC team offensive lineman.
Beam. It's the choice of champions.
Like Javion said, it is the internet choice of champions. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. This is the last segment. We're going to kind of talk more on this third Saturday in October. Everybody kind of anticipating this game. Great matchup. Tennessee has a lot to talk about this year. Cutting up with BH. He was like, "Look, for 15 years I haven't been able to say anything. I'm finally able to, talk about it." And that's right. That's true.
And why wouldn't they be called?
That's right.
This game?
They look really good offensively. I think it's going to be a really good matchup because, especially if Bryce Young is available, which everyone's kind of expecting him to play, because they're not so good defensively, especially in the passing aspect. And what's the deal with their safety, their starting safety? Don't expect him to play. So, that just makes it even worse. Now, the benefit they'll have is they'll be at home. Neyland Stadium's 107,000. They'll be rocking, which I'm sure we're preparing for that noise level. I would hope that we are anyway. But
well, even with Bryce, last year and one time this year where we were in a quote unquote hostile environment, we really haven't played that way.
Right.
So, I don't know what makes us think we're going to show up all of a sudden and play well on the road in Austin environment. I mean, I think we will. I think we can. I don't know if we will or not. I mean, but we definitely got to show up and play a little bit better.
Well, let me answer that real quick. We've experienced it twice already. Hopefully we've learned from that.
Hopefully.
So it's a little bit farther into the season. So experience goes a long way. They've seen it. It's something that they've had to deal with. So maybe that's one of the things that will happen. Maurice, what's your take on that?
I've been to Neyland Stadium one time and I couldn't wait to get out of there. And, that was when they were really bad. And, so I can imagine what it's going to be like Saturday. Because if people don't realize, especially younger people, this is Alabama's biggest rivalry, the oldest one, third Saturday in October. I was going to bring a book. I got a book by Eli Gold called Third Saturday in October. It's interesting stories. So this is a deep rooted rivalry. So it's going to be crazy. As far as everything that's going to, I think what it comes down to for us are our wide receivers going to show up. You're playing against a very poor pass defense. Are you going to loaf and be lazy like you were last weekend? I'm feeling that last week it was with Coach Saban and Bryce. You probably need to rest it. And then this week said, hey, you got to suck it up. You got to play. I know Bryce wants to play. So that's what I believe. So it's going to be interesting. But I know we got some numbers that Jimmy can provide for.
So the matchups, you're talking about their defense, and I agree. I mean, they're not a great defense. Of course, neither was Texas A&M's overall. Looking at it statistically, they're more bend and don't break, because right now, of course, we have the number 2 overall or scoring defense in the conference. They're actually number 5 in the conference. We're giving up 12.5 points a game. They're only giving up 17, I think, 0.8 points a game. So really, yeah, they're not a great defense, but they're not giving up a lot of points every game, every week. Offensively, they're number 1 in the conference, one of the top ranked in the country. Well, we're number 2 in the conference, again, top ranked in the country. So, yeah,
and that's after a poor weekend last week.
Right, that's right. So yeah, so if you're looking at those numbers, yeah, you can lean, the I guess being favored since Vegas thinks we're going to win by 8 points, I guess. But I guess that's where they get that from. But there's not a whole lot of separation there. I thought there'd be more when I looked at it, but there's really not, honestly.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to step up. We definitely going to have Bryce there. I mean, if Bryce plays and he's 100% healthy, which I'm pretty sure he will be, then yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have a chance to win the game.
Where I think we ultimately will have success is it's gonna come down to coaching. The preparation for this week, the coaching part of that, and then the in-game coaching, the decisions that are made. How do we adjust? What are we, from a defensive perspective, we're going to have to make some adjustments. They're quick to run the ball as far as run the play, quick to the line. I think we should be prepared for that. That's been happening for years. So I don't know that that's going to be as big of a factor, but they're going to throw the football. Hooker is a good running quarterback. I just hope that our defense shows up, and I do not believe that Tennessee has played a defense like they're going to play Saturday.
Well, that quarterback they have, to me, he should be top candidate for Heisman. He's had a phenomenal year. Again, you can look at what he's done, who he's done it against. Again, he's really good. They're gonna move the ball on our defense. I mean, they're gonna score some points on our defense. Again, I think we have to be able to match that on our side. Again, our wide receivers got to step up. Of course, again, Bryce has to play. So I'm going to be interested again to see how that unfolds.
Well, Maurice, last year, I mean, it was a good football game last year until kind of the end of the fourth, last half of the fourth quarter, and we pulled away a little bit. I mean, he had a couple of big plays, 70-yard touchdown pass, 50-plus, 60-plus touchdown pass. I mean, they're going to move the football. I agree. I think if we can score and give our defense a break on the sideline, if we can hold on to the ball a little bit and, run some clock, run the football well, mix it up with the pass, give our guys on defense a chance to breathe, I think we'll have
Well, key
success.
stat, which has been all year long, and I've talked about it in some of the segments we've had, is getting off the field on third down.
And we're really good at it.
We're still leading the conference in getting off the field on third down. So I know that's kind of cliche-ish, but that's going to be a key in the game, getting off the field. But something else that doesn't need to get lost in all this is the fact that they're coming off a bye week. We're about to play our 7th straight game with no break, and they just had a break. So who knows? You know they're going to throw the kitchen sink.
Sometimes that's good and bad.
I mean, but
No.
my point
No.
is they're going to throw the kitchen sink at us. We're going to see things that we haven't seen. I guarantee you. So yeah, those adjustments we're going to have to make in game or even at halftime are going to be so crucial. All right, time out.
We got a timeout. 30 seconds.
They just went to LSU and beat the brakes off of LSU at Tiger Stadium. So
Oh yeah, that's
That was
right. I'm
week-
sorry. But they've only played 5 games. Yeah, they had that break. So I apologize. You're right. Thanks.
no
so much.
worries. But no worries. I understand what y'all are saying, but I think we are a tale of two teams. I think you'll see there'll be as many national people are, voting us down this time next week. They're going to go, oh my God, I forgot this is Alabama. So
I think I said that today.
Mhm.
It's still Alabama. So Maurice, let's it's time for predictions. What's your prediction of this outcome?
line is 7.5 or 8. I'm saying take the Tide. It'll be 38-17.
38-17.
Ooh. Oh, like
Bryce
I said, Bryce is the key if he's healthy. We'll be able to move the ball and score. Again, I'm just not so sure with our defense, as good as they are, because they're really good offensively. Prediction, I'm in line. I'm with Mo. I think we'll score 38, 40 points. I think they're going to score 30, 35. So I think it's going to be a 40 to 30, 35 to 30, or 38 to 30, 40 to 30, something like that. I think it's going to be close. But yeah, maybe I think we'll cover that.
I'm thinking that it's going to be a good football game. I think it's going to be close. Yeah, we're predicted to win by 8, but I'm thinking it's going to be 38, 38-30, 38-28. I think we'll end up covering. Certainly Bryce is a big part of that, but I do believe that the Alabama team that shows up this Saturday will look a little bit different, not from personnel perspective. I just believe that Saban understands the importance of what has to take place this week, and I believe we'll see that on Saturday. So it'll be fun to watch. I'm sure we'll all be talking. Have your cell phones charged. Fortunately, it's 3:30 and not 8 o'clock because I can't stand the 8 o'clock games.
Yeah.
But hey, look forward to watching it. Look forward to talking with you guys during the game. Look forward to coming back next week and talking about hopefully another Tide win. And Tide fans, we'll talk to you next week right here on Channel 207. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.